Hi, this is Evelyn Thomas. Welcome to New Spotlight Topics. So today I'm going to talk about the single family in the United States. I'm one of them. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I've come across this video. This older gentleman, I think Thomas. So I heard he wrote a lot of books, and he was on an interview talking about it, and it's sort of interests me because I'm in the same boat as everybody else, although I'm engaged, but I'm not married yet. But if you're married in the United States, your part is done. All right. Nobody gave a 2 cent about you. The government will not help you anymore as long, you know, as long as you're married. So the government only help you if you're not married. I'm just doing some experiment, moving things around. Because if you're starting a thing new day, you gotta be working on your little craft little by little. And I'm not trying to be professional, but I'm just want to, you know, show people back home like where I come from to how America is and what goes on here. So uh stopping, talking about it might be able to help because the young people that coming after me, they're worse. So a lot of them, I'm a single mother, but I don't depend on the government. I work and care for my family. So a lot of, these young people now, because I'm not sure if they changed the welfare. I used to be on welfare before too. So I don't know if they changed the system or what they're doing now, and they're still grabbing the young people, thinking, these people helping them, but they're not helping. So now you can use your food stamp to buy makeup, to buy detergent, to buy anything, whatever it is you want to buy for yourself. It's no longer for your children. So these, women can use this thing for whatever they want to use it for, and that's not why it's for. So this Democrat Party is still working hard to hold black people down. I'm African American. I'm not Black American. You can understand that from my speaking. This I have an accent. Okay, I know people here do, but there is quite different from mine. So I just want to talk about this video today. First of all, I want to speak about this chart. I'm sure everybody can see it. This chart. If you read this chart, it tell you where black family, single family is, where it used to be in the 50s and 60s, and where it's going now. And it's going up. It's not stopping. So when I came across this video, uh, Thomas, so I just want to play a little bit so you guys are listening because it's something everybody got to hear, or if you haven't heard it yet.
Where if the man stays there, the government will not give the woman welfare, and if he leaves, it will. And so when you pay people not to get married, more people don't get married.
And that's true. So when some of us got here, when I traveled from Africa, when I came here to the United States, I came here legally, by the way. But when I came here, first we live in Rhode Island. But when I got there, I stayed there for 8 years, but I really didn't like it. I never like it because I felt like a lot of people on food stamp and the government can't allow you to work. So if you need a little bit of help, you got to drop your hour in order for the government to be able to help you. And how is that fair to me that like or love to work? I'm a hard-working mother. I like to do my own thing. I don't like people telling me what to do. That's the reason why I love the United States. First of all, the free speech that I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want, not to commit crime or anything, but by living a decent life. I can work, but the thing is that if I need little help, right now I can get help because not even healthcare. I have 3 kids. I have five. My two sons living on their own, but they're still on my health care. All right. But now I have to pay for my children's health care because my government here in North Dakota said I'm making too much money. So in order for me to be able to get health care, I got to go drop my hours, which is something I don't want to do. So you see how it works? So how is that fair for people that want to get ahead? Keep listening.
Most black children were being raised in two-parent families in 1960. 30 years after the liberal welfare state, the great majority of black children were being raised by single parents.
Yes.
How does that, by the way, we should note that Patrick Moynihan publishes the Moynihan Report in 1965.
Yes.
And he's alarmed because the illegitimacy rate among black families is 25% then. Now, among whites, it's over a third.
Yes.
Hispanics, it's over half. And among African Americans, it's over 70%. What's going on there?
Well, this is again. This too, you find the same thing in Britain. You find it in France and Norway. You find it in the Western world. In fact,
The dissolution of the family structure.
Oh yeah, there are any number of Western nations where 40% of the children are raised with only one parent.
Right.
At the extremes, compared to Asian countries, at the extremes, Iceland, it's 2 out of 3 children born are raised in a single-parent home. In South Korea, it's 1 out of 66.
Wow. Wow. And so that's the welfare state?
Yes.
It is.
Oh, you're paying. You're creating a situation where if the first of all, you're creating a situation where if the man stays there, the government will not give the woman welfare, and if he leaves, it will. And so they're paying. When you pay people not to get married, more people don't get married.
Quote, Black Americans, a group often identified as beneficiaries of the welfare state in America, made considerable economic progress in the 20th century. Fine, of course, but much, if not most, this is the thing with you, the dependent clause is where the sting is, but much, if not most, of this progress was prior to the massive expansion of the American welfare state, close quote. That is so I want to say counterintuitive because we hear so much about African American progress since civil rights and the establishment of the welfare state that it really has become a kind of American intuition. Explain yourself, Dr. Sowell.
Well, as of 1940, 87% of black households were in poverty. Over the next 20 years, that declined to 47%. This is all prior to the civil rights laws, prior to the social welfare policies of the Johnson administration.
By the way, this chart down here you're looking at is, I think, from 2007. So from 2007 to this present day, and he talking about the 40. My goodness, how far have we come, and where we going?
But that was not that was just the same trend continuing at a reduced rate. Affirmative action is even worse because, as I remember, I'm trying to think now, the numbers. I think it was something like poverty rate was something like 30% among black households before affirmative action, and a decade after affirmative action, it was 29%. This is not the same as the 40% decline that occurred before there were any civil rights laws and before there was any social welfare state.
And so what happened between 1940 and 1960 was the post-Second World War economic boom.
It was
that
that,
right?
but it was also the massive migration of blacks out of the South.
So they're getting better education and jobs.
That's right.
Okay. Now, you mention cultural and social retrogressions. Again, I'm quoting you. Arguably the most consequential of these was the decline in two-parent families.
Yes.
Close quote. Explain that one. Among African Americans.
Yes.
We're still talking about African Americans.
Well, you know, when they talk about things like this, they talk about the legacy of slavery.
Right.
And I argue, well, empirically, It's not that, it's the legacy of the welfare state. Because as of 1960, which is almost 100 years after slavery ended, the majority of black kids were being raised in two-parent households. But within one generation after the welfare,
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit. So, up to today, since the 2000, how many slavery people do we know? The Caucasian people that own slave, and some of the dark community that own slave, and up to today, how many slave people that live in slavery, how many of them live today? Only the descendant. None of those people live today. And we have a law in this country that because you cannot, serve your, go to prison for your father or your mother. So it's your great, 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 great grandparent. You cannot bear the consequence for those people. They did there back then, there is gone, and this is our time now. So why can we fix it for the next generation to come? Look at the children on the street. There was a video Candace Owen was showing this kid in the mall, rapping to sex right in front of bunch of people. And you guys say black people are depressed, black people are being deprived of everything. So who catching that? There was a lot of Caucasian people, dark people, white people, as we call it, were all sitting around there. None of them did anything. Nobody got up and walked up to him and say, "You being rude. You being disrespectful. You look like you're not grow up in a good home." Nobody went to him. He was rapping, jumping over the sea, doing whatever it is he want. I'm not sure where it end, but my son would not do that. A decent mother cannot let her child to do that. You cannot let your son to live like that. What do you expect to happen at the end of the day? He looked like he should be in school, but he's not. He's in the airport rapping to woman parts, all of these things that are not supposed to come out of his mouth if he's a decent gentleman. What you expect? Those are the kind of people he will attract to him. Those are the kind of people that will come to him. And the street will welcome you and then destroy you. You see, there's a lot of old people that making a youngster doing this robbing and this stealing. They got crime buzz. And mind you, they might be black or white, but they're older. The older one sending the young one to be a thief. And because you want money so desperately, you don't want to go to work. Can I catch one of my son one day and say, they put it catching for shoplifting? Ooh, may the Lord Jesus help us all. Let's think.
so that the majority of black kids today are raised in one-parent households. When you think about it, I mean, centuries of slavery and generations of Jim Crow did not destroy the black family, but one generation of the welfare state did.
So it's me.
The Moynihan Report, what was it? A call for national action.
Yes.
The Negro family, a call for national action, 1965, and even
Right.
50 years ago. And his principal point of alarm, and again, now I'm trying to recall the statistics, but I believe the out-of-wedlock birth rate among African Americans in 1965 was 25%.
Something like that, yeah.
And he was so alarmed that he wrote this report, and today it's over 70%. And
Yes.
by the way, the rate among whites is over 1/3 at this stage.
Yes.
So how does the family breakdown fit into an economic understanding? Is it something,
And the chat down here can tell you exactly what he's saying. That's what I put a chart here so you guys can see that, yeah, 70 something. Back then, they were way down here in the 20, but now it's 70 something. Where did we go wrong? And we're still following Democrat Party and think giving our welfare, giving our cash will help us. It's just something that it will help you today. but not in the long run, not in the future. I promise you that. Because for me, I live and think about the future. I don't think about today. So everything I do every day, I think about what gonna happen in the future and how I want my kids to live in the future and my children to live. And when my grandchildren coming into this world, my son will be 25 this year. He don't have any kid yet. Thank God. He want to have children when he's ready because I don't want to raise anybody else's kid. If I'm older, like a lot of grandparents these days, raising children, their grandchildren, sad, sad, and we're not doing anything about it.
We have to understand, aside from the tools of economics, it just doesn't fit into supply and demand curves and
certainly
economic history.
this occurred at a time when the black income was rising. And so we're saying that previous generations of blacks with lower income and more racial barriers the family stuck together under those conditions. And under the new conditions, which were advertised to make for great progress, in fact created retrogressions. And I think many people who were gung-ho for the idea that this was going to be progress simply cannot bring themselves to look at the evidence and say, my God, we made things worse.
Economic facts and fallacies. A fallacy is that the current fatherless families so prevalent among contemporary blacks are a legacy of slavery, where families were not recognized under slavery. This ignores the fact that the problem has become much worse among generations of blacks far removed from slavery than among generations closer to the era of slavery, close quote. Explain that.
You mean explain why it is so, or
yes? See, why is that? What on earth is going on there? That is so counter to what we assume.
Well, first of all, most people have not recognized the fact that if you go back into the 20s, you find that married couple families were much more prevalent among blacks then than today. You find also, incidentally, that the blacks had as late as 1930, blacks had lower unemployment rates than whites. So all these things that we complain about and attribute to the era of slavery, those things should have been worse in the past than in the present.
Right.
But in fact, they're worse in the present than in the past. And I think if you want to look for a turning point, it would be since the 1960s.
And what happened in the 1960s?
Oh, you began to have not only the welfare state, you began to have the mindset that goes with the welfare state, so that there was no stigma any longer attached, for example, to being on relief or welfare.
And so, but why? Well, illegitimacy is exploding now among, it's high among Hispanics,
yes,
and it's exploding among whites. But the Moynihan report, when was that, Tom?
Oh, in the 60s. 65.
When Moynihan talked about the illegitimacy rate among
yes,
blacks, which was exploding then. So what if the welfare state changes the way Americans think?
Yes.
Why did black Americans prove susceptible to that change first?
Because they were poor. I don't think that many Asian American girls who are preparing to go off to Stanford or Harvard are going to say, hey, I can live on welfare, why should I abstain?
Nothing so turns the tables on critics of social pathology in the black community as invoking the painful history of slavery. But because slavery has left bitter legacies, it does not follow that any particular bitter experience among blacks today can automatically be attributed to slavery. Cancer is indeed fatal, but every fatality cannot be attributed to cancer, and certainly not after an autopsy has shown death to be due to a heart attack or gunshot wounds. One of the key misfortunes within the contemporary black community, from which many other misfortunes flow, is the breakdown of the family, or the failure to form a family in the first place. As of 1992, more than half of all black adults had never been married, quite aside from an additional 16% who had been either divorced or widowed. By contrast, only 21% of white adults had never been married. More than half of all black children, 57%, were living with only one parent, and another 7.5% were not living with either parent.
One of them?
Thus, only a little more than a third of black children were living in traditional two-parent households. The great majority of those black children who were living with only one parent were living with their mothers, and more than half of these mothers were unmarried. The all-too-common and all-too-tragic situation was the teenage mother, children having children. Of 190,000 black children whose parents were currently still teenagers, only 5,000 were living with both parents. This, of course, does not include all those children whose mothers were teenagers when they were born, but whose mothers were 20 years old or older at the time the Census Bureau collected the statistics. In short, it underestimates the extent of teenage motherhood and the consequences that continue long after the mother has reached 20 years of age. Children having children is a deadly situation, whether from the standpoint of physical health, babies born to teenage mothers being prone to more medical disabilities, or from the standpoint of the inability or unwillingness of teenage mothers to raise those children with the knowledge, skills, and values necessary for them to become productive and law-abiding adults. Since many of these teenage girls are high school dropouts and are otherwise lacking in the discipline, knowledge, and maturity necessary to raise a child, they can hardly be expected to give the child what they themselves do not have. The tragedy of the situation is too obvious to require elaboration. As in other areas where violations of societal norms have led to disasters, the first order of business for the anointed has been to turn the tables on society, which must itself be made to feel guilty for what it complains of. Blaming a legacy of slavery for the high levels of unwed teenage pregnancy among blacks and the abdication of responsibility by the fathers of the children clearly performs that function. Whether it is actually true is another question, and one receiving remarkably little attention. Going back 100 years, when blacks were just one generation out of slavery, we find that the census data of that era showed that a slightly higher...
I hope you guys listening, and I hope you subscribe to my channel. It's new spotlight topics, because I'm one of them. Although I'm African American, but I am still American, and I'm one of the single motherhood. I'm just the little bit older one, not the Gen Z one now, or the younger one now, because the girls in the 20, the 30, but I'm saying hello, 40. So
adults. This, in fact, remained true in every census from 1890 to 1940. Prior to 1890, this question was not included in the census, but historical records and contemporary observations of the Reconstruction era depicted desperate efforts of freed black men and women to find their lost mates, children, and other family members, efforts continuing on for years and even decades after the Civil War. Slavery had separated people, but it had not destroyed the family feelings they had for each other, much less their desire to form families after they were free. As late as 1950, 72% of all black men and 81% of black women had been married. But the 1960 census showed the first signs of a decline that accelerated in later years, as so many other social declines began in the 1960s. This new trend, beginning a century after emancipation, can hardly be explained as a legacy of slavery, and might more reasonably be explained as a legacy of the social policies promoted by the anointed, especially since similar social policies led to similarly high rates of unwed motherhood in Sweden, where neither race nor slavery could be held responsible. Looking more closely at the history of broken homes and female-headed households in the United States, we find that both have long been more prevalent among blacks than among whites, although the differences were not always as dramatic as they are today. The higher levels of broken homes among blacks in the past were due in part to higher mortality rates among blacks, leaving more widows and widowers, but there were also more family breakups. None of this was unique to blacks, however. The Irish went through a similar social history in 19th century American cities. But the female-headed households of an earlier era, whether among blacks or whites, were seldom headed by teenage girls. As of 1940, among black females who headed their own households, 52% were 45 years old or older. Moreover, only 14% of all black children were born to unmarried women at that time. The whole situation was radically different from what it is today. Whatever factors caused the changes, these were clearly 20th century factors, not a legacy of slavery. The whole situation was radically different from what it is today. Whatever factors caused the changes, these were clearly 20th century factors, not a legacy of slavery.
This is the conversation we have to continue to have and continue to help the Black community. But if we keep voting for Democrats, just keep Democrat in power, keep the mayor, the representative, all of these people in power, we're going to be the same as we are now. Nothing going to change for the Black community. And the Black community is me. So there was a doctor, that was talking about we that from Africa, white people not threatened by us, but they that's descendant of slave, the white people threatened by them. I've been saying that before. Why will white people be threatened by you when you are a doctor that's supposed to treat people and you have the kind of bakery in you? How is it you're supposed to look at white people and be able to treat them when they're ill? A doctor supposed to be the kind, collected, respectful gentleman or respectful woman that take care of everybody no matter who they are or where they come from. But if you are a doctor and you got a kind of a mindset, I pray Black people don't even come to you. This little girl that did this thing that said Kylie, whatever her last name is, she was kidnapped. When she came back, she's supposed to be held responsible. That's how people will stop doing whatever it is she did. But he's the same doctor. She don't need a prison time. She need a hug. She don't need a hug. She don't need no damn hug. If she need a hug, even so, her mother and father are so ignorant and is sitting there looking at her daughter doing something like that, and they pushing her to do more. That's not cool. That's not cool as a mother. If the only thing that represent a mother that make that people call you a mother, you're not just a mother because you give birth to a child, but you are a mother because you give it all the value to the kid. You're teaching her what to do and what not to do. And if that was my daughter, I'm going to tell the government, send her. Once she come out, she gonna learn. And every other young girl that watch going to learn. But no, she didn't do that. What do you think she gonna do? You think she gonna go look for a decent man to marry? To be one of the good people in the society? In the Black community, if you have your children become a monster, your community will not have a good reputation. Nobody will want to move. Even your own people will move out of your community. If somebody in your community that not good to the community, that's selling drugs in your community, will destroy the entire community because somebody there that hates you. And this thing they call Black Lives Matter don't like anybody else but themselves. You got a dirty, filthy, three lesbian women that don't even know what the real way to live, and telling people that because a criminal is dead, nobody's supposed to die. How he died. All right. My thing is that the shooting had even sit on his neck when he already hang up, even when he died from drugs overdose. All right. But because of that, you got a three woman came and took money from the poor Black, poor white, everybody, and they squander it up to today. Nobody know what happened to. And you guys still standing having sign of Black life. Which Black life? Black men raping Black women, killing Black women, killing Black children. Everything go wrong in the Black neighborhood is going wrong. And then you got a mayor telling you the people that can't vote in this country valuable than you. That's my own for today. Peace be unto you. Have a blessed day.